Hey everyone, today we're diving into something we've all heard before, what parents say to their children and how much it affects them. Parents may not realize it, but sometimes their words can have long-lasting effects. We'll talk about examples from everyday life, scientific studies, and even hear from famous leaders who've weighed in on the power of words. Let's start with a scenario many of us have seen in our daily lives. Imagine a child comes home excited about a drawing they made at school. They show it to their parent, but instead of encouragement, the parent says, "Why didn't you color inside the lines? You're so messy." It might seem like a small comment, but what the child hears is, over time, these small remarks accumulate, forming a narrative that the child carries into adulthood. Harvard psychologist Susan David notes that children who are consistently exposed to critical remarks often develop low self-esteem, carrying the emotional weight into their adult relationships and work environments. Take the quote from Nelson Mandela, "It is easier to build strong children than to repair broken men." It speaks volumes about the impact of our words. Children are like sponges. They absorb everything, and when toxic words fill their minds, it shapes their identity. Mandela knew that for a society to thrive, it starts with how we raise the next generation. Let's get into a specific phrase many children have heard: "You're just like your father or mother." This phrase is usually said in moments of frustration. The implication is negative, often used when the child has done something wrong. While the parent may not mean harm, this comparison can make the child feel like they are doomed to repeat the mistakes of their parent. Dr. Joshua Coleman, a psychologist who specializes in family dynamics, explains that these comments can lead children to internalize the idea that they're inherently flawed. Instead of focusing on their behavior, they start to believe they are the problem. Then there's the classic, "Why can't you be more like your sibling?" This phrase can create a sense of competition and resentment between siblings. It's important to understand that each child is unique, with their own strengths and weaknesses. Comparing them can harm their self-worth. Scientific research shows that children who are constantly compared to their siblings often develop feelings of inadequacy. A study published in the Journal of Family Psychology found that sibling comparisons can lead to rivalry, jealousy, and even depression in the long run. Now consider this phrase: "Stop crying, you're being dramatic." Think about what this teaches a child. Instead of learning to process their emotions, they're being told that their feelings are invalid. Brené Brown, a research professor and expert on vulnerability, talks about the importance of allowing children to feel their emotions. She explains that when we shut down a child's emotional expression, they grow up feeling ashamed of their feelings and struggle with vulnerability later in life. In simple terms, they start bottling up their emotions because they think feeling sad or upset is wrong. A famous quote by Mahatma Gandhi says, "Be the change that you wish to see in the world." It's a reminder that as parents or future parents, our behavior and words matter. We can't expect children to grow up kind, compassionate, and self-assured if we constantly belittle or criticize them. It's all about modeling the behavior we want to see in them. Now let's switch gears a bit. Have you ever heard a parent say, "You're too sensitive"? This is another toxic phrase that invalidates a child's feelings. Sensitivity is often viewed as a weakness, but in reality, it's a strength. A study highlights how emotionally sensitive children are often more empathetic and socially aware. When parents dismiss their child's sensitivity, they may unintentionally teach them to suppress their emotions, leading to struggles with mental health later in life. Another big one: "I sacrificed everything for you." While parents do make sacrifices, using this phrase can burden a child with unnecessary guilt. Instead of feeling loved, the child feels like they owe their parents something, according to Dr. Robin Berman, a psychiatrist and author of "This phrase can make a child feel like a burden, causing them to carry guilt well into adulthood." Consider what Martin Luther King Jr. once said: "Our lives begin to end the day we become silent about things that matter." When children are constantly exposed to toxic phrases, they might stop speaking up about their feelings. Over time, they might learn to stay silent, believing that their voice doesn't matter. This can lead to a lack of confidence and an inability to assert themselves in future relationships, whether it's at work or in personal life. Then there's the all too common "because I said so" Sure, it's easy to default to this phrase when a child is questioning why they should do something, but when parents consistently shut down a child's curiosity, they stifle the child's ability to think critically. Encouraging questions helps children develop problem-solving skills and confidence in their own reasoning abilities. Research shows that children who are encouraged to ask questions tend to perform better academically and are more engaged in their learning. Let's look at the phrase, "You'll never amount to anything." This is perhaps one of the most damaging things a parent can say. Studies show that children who grow up hearing this often struggle with self-worth and achievement in adulthood. A quote from Henry Ford encapsulates this perfectly. "Whether you think you can or you think you can't, you're right." In other words, if a child is told they won't succeed, they start to believe it, and their performance reflects that belief. Finally, let's talk about "I wish you were never born." While this is an extreme example, it's crucial to address it. This phrase can have devastating effects on a child's mental health. The child who hears this may feel like they are fundamentally unworthy of love or life itself. Studies reveal that children who experience this kind of verbal abuse are at a much higher risk of developing depression, anxiety, and suicidal thoughts later in life. Now, what can parents say instead? It's about shifting the narrative. Instead of saying, "You're just like your father. I notice you're upset. Let's talk about why you made that choice." "Stop crying. It's okay to feel sad. How can I help you?" "Because I said so. I'm asking you to clean your room because it teaches responsibility and that's important." The words we say to children can either build them up or tear them down. Let's remember what Maya Angelou said. "People will forget what you said, people will forget what you did, but people will never forget how you made them feel." Words have power, and when we use them wisely, we help raise confident, empathetic, and emotionally intelligent children. So the next time you're about to say something in frustration, take a step back. Remember, the words you use today can shape your child's future. Be mindful, be kind, and most importantly, be patient. It's not about being a perfect parent, but about being a present and thoughtful one. Thanks for tuning in. And if you found this helpful, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe for more discussions like this. Let's create a world where our children feel heard, valued, and loved.